Mr. Konami, we have a problem.
We know. Master Duel is not making enough money. Release a new pack this instant.
Huh? No, not that. Everyone loves the rigged limited time FOMO packs. It's just that a streamer got mad at the state of our new player experience.
What is that going to do? Make Yu-Gi-Oh players question the state of our incredibly complicated, in fact, NASA-level card game simulator?
Well, yeah.
Very well then. Release a new event and legacy support. They will forget eventually. They always do. And if they really want an improved tutorial, just make sure our design team gaslights some random YouTuber to do it for us instead.
But who could we find at such short notice?
I can't believe I'm about to do this. A few days ago, as of writing, Raran, a popular card game streamer and Hearthstone aficionado, uploaded a video of his first experience with Master Duel, Konami's somewhat successful venture into competitive online card games. It went about as well as you'd expect. Warning! The following is a recap of the events that led to this. If you already know, skip to the timestamp that you see here.
Play this game for 10 hours, and I'm gonna do this to showcase to all of you how ridiculous this game ends up being. The learning curve in Hearthstone is like something like that. Yu-Gi-Oh, it's like, so I don't know how people get past this line. And also, okay, I don't know what excavate means. What is happening? Man, from an outsider's perspective or someone just looking into this game, like, Jesus Christ. Like, what? I can pause it, but I don't think that's gonna help. Hey, oh my God. What? What the? I still don't, like, dude, I am playing cards and I don't know. This is so, like, I just don't get what you learn from these games, man. Like, I guess.
Hello and welcome back to Igniskidd. Today I have a different form of video for you. I will be recapping the Raran Yu-Gi-Oh debate that is currently ongoing as of recording first, and then fixing the entire Master Duel new player experience to the best of my ability. You will be along for the ride and learn something about the true nature of tutorials, what Master Duel did correctly, and where they majorly shot themselves in the foot. At this point you might find yourself asking, okay, weird YouTube guy, but what makes you believe that you can make a better tutorial than seasoned professionals hired by a corporation with a net worth of 7.6 billion? To that I say, I've been studying this for 3 years now, so let's get the show on the road before I talk your head off. It all started on the 11th of August 2023, a casual Tuesday in the YouTube landscape when a video is uploaded titled "I played Yu-Gi-Oh to prove it's ridiculous." Custom thumbnail and all by the YouTuber Raran, subjecting himself to play Master Duel for a planned 10 hours. As the video progresses, it is clear he is not having the good time he was expecting, rather the opposite. The basics seemed easy enough to understand, but once he got into actually playing the game, that's a different story. 4 hours and 11 minutes in, he's done. This is what he had to say about it.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't think I want to play this game for 10 hours. The reality of the situation is after playing a game for 4 hours and 10 minutes, I'm not really having any fun. Unless I'm missing something that I don't think I am. Like I played a good, apparently you guys gave me a deck that was probably good. I tried the tutorial. I tried casual mode. I tried ranked. This game is not for me. I am missing something that is gonna make the game more approachable.
If you want to watch the entire thing, it is linked in the description. Please note that I am paraphrasing, but after this he also stated the game is just too hard to wrap my head around and actually enjoy the game. I just don't have that sense of enjoyment, there's too much going on, it's not fun to play, and it's going to take me another 6 years to know what every deck does. This was a wake-up call for many people familiar with the game. A harsh truth. That even seasoned card game professionals like Raran, when tackling Yu-Gi-Oh without any outside help, or as he puts it, coaching, cannot find enjoyment or success in this game. It's a serious problem. When Master Duel first released, it was a light at the end of the tunnel. Finally, we had an official simulator, just like Magic and Hearthstone do, but like walking around shirtless at the beach for too long, we didn't notice the massive, painful sunburn on our back. Our tutorial is terrible. Big YouTubers like MBT and Farfa were quick to give their take on the matter, also doing the user testing recap for me. What that is exactly you'll get to know later, but for now, we'll be looking at the main points in MBT's and Farfa's opinion on the new player experience, and based on that, plus Raren's action taken in the tutorial, yes, I did watch the VOD for this, we'll see what we can do to make the Master Duel tutorial more approachable for new players, and give them an actual sense of how the game is played. Starting with the more calm approach by Joseph Rothschild himself. After a short introduction to the video, he had the following to say, summarized, because I want to keep this video below an hour.
1. Yu-Gi-Oh's got the worst new player experience of all time. 2. Yu-Gi-Oh's insanely complicated in a way that turns off potential new players. And 3. The core gameplay loop of Yu-Gi-Oh often isn't fun.
With these 3 points established, he gave his take on the matter. If you want to watch the whole thing, again, it's linked in the description. Summarized, these are his takes. Number 1. He's completely right. The new player experience from Raren's perspective is completely outdated. Basics are important, but nothing in the tutorial tells you how fast a normal game of Yu-Gi-Oh actually plays, as a true goal is to wombo combo your opponent into the stratosphere, not giving them a chance to land back on Earth safely. As it stands, that is going to lead to a lot of disappointed players looking for the rest of the tutorial on links, Xyz, fusion and synchro summoning. The assumption of having another player teach you how to play a game, coaching, if you will, isn't available to everybody and shouldn't need that if the game did explain itself properly. Number 2. This is a fact. Aside from the newer summoning mechanics being easier to learn, the core gameplay of Yu-Gi-Oh is very complex. MBD points out that Magic the Gathering, for example, has many different ways to learn the game that aren't as high investment as Yu-Gi-Oh is. Even a draft mode that does not require you to already have a sizable collection, making entry into the game so much easier. Unlike Magic, however, Yu-Gi-Oh's complexity doesn't ever change. Long card text that you have to speed read so you can get even a hint of an idea of what your opponent is attempting to do. Yeah. In Raren's video he played against Rika. Imagine your first time as trying to understand what this deck's game plan is without knowing how tribute effects work. Needless to say, he didn't have much fun getting beat without being able to play the game much. Number 3. Yu-Gi-Oh isn't fun. Yu-Gi-Oh is extremely zero-sum to the point of Raren saying, I have to go first so my opponent can't play. This game has a unique learning cliff that lets our favorite card game look like solitaire because we can't find a way to ease people into the way the game is played in Master Duel, while paper has been getting better lately. But even so, a new player would need to get lucky, at least, to pick up a good deck. There is obviously a lot more said by MBT, but we want this to be over with sometime this decade, so the video is in the description for you to enjoy after this. He concludes the video with the following.
Finally, I think this year has really just been our come to Hortaki moment, right? Master Duel was a blessing in that it exposed the game to more people than ever before, but it also shone a light directly on the fact that the player base is increasingly a group of people who play because they got in on the ground floor in 2002. And that's why I came away from this video just a little bit disappointed. It sucks to see someone who loves card games as much as Rastafarian turned off from what is, in my opinion, the best one, because the new player experience is dismal and the cards are way too complex for any mortal person to comprehend at first glance.
Moving on to Farfa's behemoth of a response, titled Addressing the Attack on Yu-Gi-Oh! By Raren. Now, as this is a 40-minute banger reacting to the entirety of Raren's video, I will heavily paraphrase the video for the sake of time. However, there are many topics to be addressed here. If you are still watching by this time, you either like card game drama way too much, or you wonder when I'm actually delivering on the title. I'm going to shortly, so let's finish our basic research first. The video opens with the following.
It's always interesting to get non-Yu-Gi-Oh players' perspective on the game, so let's see if the criticism here is valid and what the experiences of a new player playing our divinely bestowed upon us card game of Yu-Gi-Oh. Surely it's going to be a fun and enjoyable experience for a new player.
Yeah, far from that. The issue of many words on card was addressed again, with the point being taken. After joke on Yu-Gi-Oh players coping about the difficulty of the card game, he had the following to say.
Yu-Gi-Oh is the most complicated card game, and it might be one of the most complicated video games that isn't an RPG or something in general. It is genuinely so difficult and hard to grasp everything in Yu-Gi-Oh. like from every mechanic to every phase to every step to every micro step to the damage calculation, the summoning methods, the conditions, the activation requirements, the lingering effects, etc. Like, there is a billion different things in Yu-Gi-Oh! That is way too hard to grasp in such a short span of time. The only way you can even possibly comprehend Yu-Gi-Oh! In its totality is to legitimately just play for multiple months. And even then you have to play like semi-regularly because like if you just don't play, you're going to forget a lot of things.
Thanks for saving me the effort on the animations, Farfa. Appreciate it. Anyways, he is absolutely correct. Even I, who only left the game for about 2 months, had trouble getting back into the game. So a beginner like Raran had chosen the equivalent of climbing Mount Everest in shorts, a tank top, and some fruit gummies. Moving on past the confused Farfa witnessing somebody play Dragon Maid for the first time, this is what he had to say on Raran's choice to buy the Salamangrate structure deck.
Oh, don't buy... Okay, Salad is... Honestly, learning the game with Dragon Maid is absolutely fine. The thing is, like, you're not going to be able to learn something like Salamangrate, or basically most semi-mid-range to mid-range plus decks all the way up to combo. You're never going to be able to learn those decks without a guide. I refuse, like, as a new player, there is no world in where you can learn how to play a combo or even a mid-range deck as a new player. Like, imagine you pick up Yu-Gi-Oh! For the first time and someone just gives you Circular and says, go, do it. Show me what you can end on. I honestly feel like if they were to isolate themselves in a bubble and not look at any guides or take any advice, that could probably take like a month of just like activating different card effects, and even then most of them would probably be illegal plays because they keep missing all of the random conditions and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
What we take away from this is that there is a clear lack of communication from the game to the player in terms of difficulty of what they are attempting to spend their gems and time on. This leads to obviously frustrating experiences on the user end, which are best avoided if you want to keep them playing your game. After this despair at Raran's deck choice, his next input was the following upon Raran's explanation on why he didn't want to be coached.
What I'm understanding is in League of Legends, at least, if you want to learn the game as fast as possible, you pick one champion and you learn the game from that champion. In Yu-Gi-Oh!, it is easier to play the game through one deck and then learn the game from that deck. When I came back the following...
Yeah, that's probably true. At the very basic level, you should probably just play one deck and stick to that deck, and then once you learn mechanically how to play the game, you understand the phasing, a little bit of the damage step, the combo lines, you can branch out into another deck.
Shortly after, he had this take on Raran being assisted by Twitch chat.
Okay, so again, by the way, like, he never would have been able to figure this out on his own, right? Because no one is... like, if you buy a Salamangrate structure deck from the store, you're never going to, like, understand how to build it or do anything with it or even what any of the combos are without, like, third-party resource.
Concluding with that other games like Hearthstone actually give beginners an objectively good deck, as does Master Duel, even remarking that they should double their price for the value that they have, but in turn should add 3 copies of all necessary engine cards to the deck itself, making the entry into the game much easier. Even bringing up the topic of a beginner format in Yu-Gi-Oh!
That should just be like beginner format in Yu-Gi-Oh! And like modern format. Like modern format is just so hard to jump into. I don't know how people do it. Like, the only people who can actually physically jump in and play modern Yu-Gi-Oh! From scratch is people who have a friend circle who already play the game. I completely refuse to believe that anyone can jump into Yu-Gi-Oh! Fresh by themselves without any external help. I genuinely don't think it's possible.
Afterwards, stating that for a new player, sitting there and reading must feel very boring, making the game unfun. A more simplified card text would help, but to what extent really? Farfa's take on the tutorial of Hearthstone against Yu-Gi-Oh! Was definitely something, also touching on the game's solo mode.
The tutorials in Yu-Gi-Oh! Teach you, like, the mechanics, because there's just so many, right? Because the thing is, like, if in Hearthstone, there is literally, like, 3 main mechanics. Playing a card, which is literally just drag and drop, damage, and, like, that's basically it. Like, and card text. And card text is like 4 words. In Yu-Gi-Oh! There's like multiple phases, multiple different types of card effects. Compared to Hearthstone, they are infinitely more complex. Hearthstone is like battle cry do something at like the basic level. You know what I mean? Like a very simple like card does that. But in Yu-Gi-Oh! A simple card is like special summon. Or grab or search for like one of 7 possible options. You know what I mean? Here's another thing about the problem with solo mode in Master Duel. Solo mode is not a representation of the game. Like, you are going into solo mode, you're not really playing, like, fully fleshed out decks. Like, some of those, like, World Chalice, Orcus decks, and like they're just like mishmashes of like nothing. You know, they'll give you like World Chalice Charmer. It's like that is not a representation of Yu-Gi-Oh!
And he is absolutely correct. How can a mode meant to represent a deck and its playstyle not actually represent it? The player doesn't even get a glimpse at the intended power of a deck. This all culminated in what we saw in MBT's take on the matter, Rauran's complete disinterest in continuing to play Yu-Gi-Oh!, at least in the modern format. To that fact, Farfa had this to say.
Just don't fucking play that. Well, yeah, he's not going to play. And that's it. He's done this as an experiment. He's quitting, right? And there you go. That's a potential person in the community. That's a potential player. That's a potential, customer for the business, right? Like, it's very easy to just say, like, well, don't play. You know? Who cares? It's a niche game. That is a legitimate argument. I guess, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Does not need to apply to everyone, I suppose. But you have to admit, like, you know, the game doesn't really do enough to give you that carrot on a stick kind of thing.
And I completely agree. But before I give my short take on the matter, here's what Farfa had to say after listening to Rauran's declaration that he will not be completing the 10 hours, alongside his reasons why.
A lot to process and a lot to unpack there, but that is just a confirmation of the sad reality of the unfriendliness that is modern Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Yes, admittedly, he was being a little bit papega and a little bit silly by just not reading more of his cards. That is unfortunate, but at the same time, you have to understand that the approachability of Yu-Gi-Oh is night and day with something like Hearthstone or Magic or Runeterra. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, they're just not on the same level as games, right? In terms of its approachability and its new player availableness. And Yu-Gi-Oh has the potential to do that. And I think the key there, at least like the simplest fix, is in Time Wizard. And I really hope that that is something that is introduced into Master Duel, because the easiest way to access Yu-Gi-Oh is digital. It does? No, it doesn't. Where does Yu-Gi-Oh have that access? It does not have that access. You have to like hunt around and search for resources in order to be taught these things. That's the thing. You can't just load up Master Duel as someone who's never played the game before, begin your new player experience, and then somehow spawn in your brain that, oh, there actually is alternate fun ways to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Right? That just doesn't exist.
That about sums up how we got here, and most of the research we need to improve the new player experience in Master Duel. If you came here using the timestamp, the interesting part of the video starts now. Surprisingly, while making this video, Rauran uploaded another video on Yu-Gi-Oh! Given that he is our primary subject here, I will include his experience with Edison and Simo here in a couple sentences. The video, like the first one, is actually really good, so I highly recommend you go watch it afterwards, or right now and then come back to this, to give me a bit more better stats. But overall, he really enjoyed his time with Edison format. Given that Simo is also basically the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community's best chance at getting players into the game again, he was probably the perfect choice to actually do this. So, taking what we've seen in that video and incorporate it in what we've seen his gripes be with the game, at least in the modern standard, we can conclude the following. The tutorial is not good enough for the modern format. Sure, it might apply to Edison because it is way simpler and like 10 years ago at this point, and the game itself, Master Duel, is not engaging enough when played alone. Sure, with friends, backsitting and maybe coaching, it might improve upon what you might be experiencing for the first time, but it is too complex for first-time players due to the long card text to just go in and comprehend it all by itself. The player itself also has no idea what the different decks do, so if you go jump in ranked and, as in Rauran's case, you face Rika, yeah, that's not going to be a good time. Also, with no comprehension of the game, the player will eventually become apathetic to the game, leading to, as seen in Rauran's video, to a complete disinterest into even continuing to make an effort to learn the game. Yeah, we stand in front of a quite precarious problem. Let's see if we can fix that.
One eternity later.
So, what have we learned? The game is obviously way too overwhelming when trying to play without having consumed any other form of content about it to get a head start. And no, this does not include the first few seasons of the anime, as that style of play is basically non-existent on Master Duel, except for some limited time formats. Ironically enough, Master Duel has already solved this very problem. They just haven't realized, and the people trying out the game are oblivious to it, as it is displayed as an activity where base knowledge is essential for earning any form of rewards. You probably already guessed it, but I'm talking about the Duel Cups and the various events taking place in the game. This proves Konami has the means and ability to create custom ban lists depending on the format, allowing for easier introduction to a summoning method and playstyle. But the question remains, why not incorporate exactly those features into a tutorial stage for people to learn from? And how would this whole debacle even work? Well, for this I made the following, before we go over to my idea of how Konami should approach the user experience of first-time players. These here are my best effort of recreating Master Duel's UI. I know it's a bit scuffed, but bear with me, it's not like I can go and make a carbon copy of it. I could data scrape over the course of a few hours all the assets I need, just let's say display them right here for you to see and get an idea of how this would be displayed for everyone to play. But I'm not a developer of any kind, just a guy studying user experience and sharing that on the internet. Moving on. My pitch for this would be to replace or add a duel mode. Specifically Legacy and a draft mode. I'm not the only one that remembers that exists, am I? Isn't it like the most used format idea for every Yu-Gi-Oh series out there? Okay, you know what I mean. Draft is arguably the most popular way to play the game among people that know it, whilst a Legacy format can be used to slowly introduce new players to the speed Yu-Gi-Oh is played at, up to the point where Dragoonity got printed. To this reference, take a look at my friend Gatsby's video. He'll tell you what I mean. But Igniskidd, why would the new players even play this if they until now haven't even found the rotating events? Good question, random person I just made up. Here's the thing. Having the game open from the start and making you do what you want is a good thing. Hell, in Konami's eyes, it probably makes you spend money faster to get packs. But that isn't the point I'm trying to make. Master Duel solved this issue for me too. The profile duel levels. Play the game, level up, get gems, etc. Beyond that, they're basically useless. So, let's turn them into something useful, making the milestone to a player's progression in the game. Before that, let's assume, in line with the video, you know nothing at all about the game. By just playing a couple of games, you can easily reach profile level 5 and earning a basic understanding of what card goes where, how to inflict the damage, why the bigger number beats the smaller one. This is knowledge fundamental to the game. But to this point, you won't have had any interaction with the deck building screen, similar to what it is currently in the tutorial. The arguably most important part of the game. It's a card game, not a I take the loner deck and play game. Creating a legacy of the duelist style opponent system that you have to beat with increasing difficulty, not too hard obviously, this is a tutorial, you can introduce the concept of changing bad cards for better ones. Black Hole for Fisher, Mirror Force for Negate Attack, and so on. Letting go of the guidance there, until they beat the opponents or reach a higher profile level through only experimenting with what the game has to offer. Limiting your new players' available options this way isn't anything new either. Many games use an objective-based system to unlock the rest of the game. An example relative here would be League of Legends. Only at a certain level are you allowed to go from fighting bots to fighting actual people, even longer if you want to play ranked. Compare that to current Master Duel, where even somebody who has only found the game and probably played through the tutorial in, let's be generous here, an hour, can immediately jump into ranked and possibly be matched upon somebody who has been playing the game for the last 25 years. If they were to say, let's say, use a similar system for Master Duel as the new Master Duel AI they showcased at the Tokyo Dome event, they could easily set up and recreate iconic moments for the player to experience themselves by playing against iconic characters, let's say Kaiba, Yugi, I don't know, Weevil, using their own decks that they managed to refine over the course of the tutorial as a sort of little graduation match, to then be sent out in the wide world of getting turn 1 comboed by Snake Eyes. We have the technology, voice lines, and financial means to easily implement this as a tutorial that is interactive and lets you really feel like you're playing Yu-Gi-Oh! The experience, and not just Yu-Gi-Oh! The digital card game that I can get on Steam for free. It's a big difference, even though it doesn't sound like much. Now, this would have been the end of the video if Farfa and Raran hadn't uploaded another set of videos where the biggest takeaway was, to not set that Raran hit Diamond with Sword Soul. A feat well earned, even though, in the end, he finally got coaching from the one and only Farfa, teaching us all a valuable lesson. For as long Konami doesn't fix the tutorial and new user experience of Master Duel, we can only hope that our current Yu-Gi-Oh! Content creators are entertaining enough to get more people into the game.